Hello everyone, welcome back for another video. Today we just literally had about 15-20 minutes ago a presentation that just ended from Microsoft on the Marketplace update. This was an update that came out during FSExpo and was very interesting, not only because it talked about the Marketplace, but also FS24's Marketplace and what is going to happen with add-ons. I'm going to do things a little differently. I'm going to take the end of the presentation first, and then I'll go back to the beginning. The first half was mostly about statistics on the marketplace, and the second half talks a little more about the marketplace itself, the process, as well as everything planned for the add-ons and which one will be compatible, how it will work, and everything. So let's get started. This is what the marketplace will look like. This is looking really good. Essentially what they're doing is they're focusing on three main goals: simplicity, ease of design, and discoverability. The whole point is to have a more streamlined, less cluttered interface where things can be easier to find. All of the content that you have in FS20 will move into FS24 and will also be backwards compatible. Anything from FS24 will also be available in FS20. You can see at the top right, we also have an interesting kind of UI where you have levels as well as currency. It seems like the currency could be, and there was no information on that, it's purely speculation on my side. It could be interesting if it was connected to a career mode that we've seen already in the trailers. It could also relate to the flight sim points, which we currently see in the marketplace, and those are basically just a direct conversion from the amount of currency that you're buying for a specific plane first gets converted into flight sim credits before the purchase. So this is kind of a strange little addition, but it seems it could be very interesting for us. Another interesting thing of this is you see more planes and you see a date. So many add-ons will be able to be built for FS20 in 2024. So what this is happening is all of the content from FS20 can be migrated. When we mean migrated, we're saying all the content will be brought over to the FS 2024 pipeline. They won't be released. So a developer can choose for their plane to be in FS24, and all they will have to do is do their own functional testing, and then they can just sign it off, and then it will release. By doing this, the plane or the add-on will turn to be 2020. So you will see it will be available as 2020. So the developer will have to sign off regardless on the add-on. If they want a 2024, they can do so. They'll go through the same pipeline and they can do upgrades to make it more compatible and available, mostly with things like the flight model or new features that we could see coming up that have not been announced yet. All of this will be through the pipelines. All 2020 planes will be labeled 2020. And there is a system where it gets a little more interesting. You have finally a way to get more things connected in the marketplace so you can finally sort things a little better. And very interestingly enough, there is something about streamed. So it seems like planes or sceneries could also be streamed. So we'll see what that impact it has through the internet connections, depending on what you have. But you can see you have Legacy FS20, you have Community, and Bundles and Packs. So you can see already here there's a balance. Again, everything will be connected from your Community folder as well as your Marketplace add-ons. It just seems much more organized this time around. So very exciting for the streamed feature as well. We'll see if they're able to do that with add-ons that are plane related or just scenery. Moving forward, Microsoft added a section for developers to either do a little upgrade with a paid element or a non-paid element. Essentially, if you migrate your add-on from FS20 to FS24, you can sign off of it and people will just own it. Or you could do an FS24 variant and then you can sell it at its full price on the left. Or for existing owners of the FS20 variant, you could do an upgrade price. And so this is what we're seeing here. So if you already have an FS20 version and they're doing an FS24 version, they could just give you a little upgrade here. Some might be free, some might be paid. This is, I guess, really on the decision of the developer. Just a little scared in case developers decide not to import and sign on to their FS20 catalog and just upgrade everything to FS24 and force you either to buy the full 2024 version or upgrade with the current system here. So you'd still have to pay either way. Hopefully that won't be all the developers, but that's on their side. So be vocal with the developers about your expectations, and we'll see what comes out of this. Then we get to the Marketplace Partner Program, and this is what a developer sees on their side. This is very unique because the pipeline for testing and all that stuff has been very wonky. Many things have been very manual. And so right now, this, what they call the Marketplace Content Portal, is MCP, is basically being upgraded. So currently all the functional testing has been on the developer's responsibility. They moved this so things can go much faster. Microsoft doesn't have to test your add-ons, get in the sim faster. So they've done upgrades in the way things happen. We already see this from FS20. Basically, you can do the testing and you can click your pass or fail and your actions. That's more FS20. So what does FS24 bring? Well, in this case, kind of a more unique thing. Same portal, they're going to improve things so it will find errors on its own automatically. So there's less wait time between fixing these. And the goal is to get more immediate feedback. The entire process is automated and contents will essentially be available to test in the sim super quickly. Xbox and WASM will have a longer turnaround. Currently, it's about a week or more, and we'll see if that gets much faster, but they did promise that. So we'll see how long it is. Maybe it'll be an hour, maybe it'll be a day, but they do have to compile this and make it processed and put into a package. What's really cool about this though is you can sign off for release. And when you sign off for release, there's many things that you usually do differently. For example, when you do an add-on and you want to put in the marketplace, you have to handle all of the market metadata and marketplace content into the add-on, and then you upload to the platform. So all of the metadata is now updated in the website, so you can do this directly. All the FS24 items are done on the platform now, so it's not in the SDK. You can also do the same thing with the thumbnails. And then you can submit the content separate from marketplace data, so it can be updated quickly and you don't have to re-upload the whole package. And then, as you see on the screenshot here, you can essentially send a request for release. So the goal is the ingest will be automated. You basically, the developer, will test and the consumer will immediately have it to the marketplace once you click that OK for the request release. And that's supposed to be so much faster. Just going to finish one last point with that as well. What's very unique about this is you're going to be able to add also automatically many people onto the testing things. So when your add-on, you go through this platform, you can test your add-on and other people will have access to it. And that way you can do this super quickly. You don't have to go through the weird old process where you had to manually request people to be added for the testing of the add-on before its official release. Now all of this can be done automatically. So as it said from the developer and the people present during the presentation, you'll just be able to add a reference, and all of this will reduce the pain and suffering. Very important. Another cool thing about this, so the sales, they've been able to essentially make things so much faster. So as I just said, you can basically just send things around and people will be able to get invitations to test your products. Really neat. You can enter everything specifically for the sales. So what is happening here is when you want to do a promotion, you had to do things manually. All of this is now automated. So that's really neat. Hangar descriptions, very interestingly, turns out that Microsoft was some of the people writing the descriptions that you see in your hangar. So that's in the profile section of FS20. And now all of this will change. So the hangars are now changed in the way that some of it might not be worked by them anymore. And things like the localization, they're all going away. And basically, you just have a little bit of information done by Microsoft. They weren't not exactly clear on who actually does the hangar description now. And you just put a reference to the hangar description. So before, they would send you the files, and you would integrate that into your add-on, and then you would send it back to them. Now it's basically just a reference, so you could just say, yeah, reference this hangar description, and you don't have to do the whole process anymore. It's automatically localized, amazing, no handoff to partners necessary on this. And user access, as I said earlier on the last slide, but I guess it was for this slide, you could just add people immediately to start testing your add-on. So no need to get through the teams to access content. That is wonderful. And at this point, we had Jorg at the very end of the presentation to give a conclusion and a couple of thoughts. Then we'll get back to the beginning of the presentation where all the stats were mentioned. We'll go over this quickly. Jorg basically had three elements. As it was said in the presentation, there's a basically soft announcement. The SDK for FS24 is going to be there end of September. So that means developers and partners will have access to this. Might not mean everyone, but this could also be very interesting for alphas or betas. If we get any of these, we might have actually something for us, since if the SDK is sending end of September, what about us? Maybe they will have some product ready by then for testing, and that would be amazing. 2 months before release. So we'll see if they end up with that. There's been absolutely zero comments in alphas or betas currently. The new UI, which I showed you earlier in the video, quite amazing. Very interesting for the streaming thing. We'll see what comes up for that. And world updates. He did have a little focus on that, that it's not just North America and Europe, and I'll show you why in a second. Many world updates will still be focused in Asia, Africa, South America, and beyond. So don't worry about it. Now let's get into the stats. So we had someone present a lot of the stats, so I will go fairly quickly over these and just point out the very interesting elements. So the audience, we have 15 million players in the sim, so honestly, that's really amazing. And you can see here the number of users on a monthly basis per platform. You do see on the left or right hand side there is no scale, but I see this more as a percentage. It wasn't really said. Maybe there's numbers, but obviously they're hiding these and makes sense. This is very valuable information. Interestingly enough, Steam is at the lowest, and it seemed that the presentation was focused around the idea that Steam was the only platform 100% owned through a direct purchase, and therefore was a bigger barrier of entry. And so people would go through Windows 10, which is the same as the Microsoft Store, in which case some portion of that would also be through the Game Pass subscription, and as a result, would be much higher because the cost of entry is much lower. So it's interesting on that assumption, which probably means a lot of people on the Microsoft Store are on Game Pass. So that could be interesting as a whole. And Xbox has grown pretty massively. Then the pay rates per platform. This one's interesting. So they had over 1 million purchases in the flight simulator, and you can see the highlights as they get through popular plane or the different sales that they had. And then up here, they had the spring sale, the WASM upgrade, the charity plane, and the premium deluxe discount for everyone. So big spike. The charity plane, I think, must have been the Antonov 225. So that was for the charity. So that was really cool. A lot of things here to say, but really Xbox is finally overpassing Steam. You can see at the very end here. So I found that very interesting. And this is an upwards, the graph is going up. It's not going down. So this is really cool. xCloud is very low compared to what we expected, but I guess the market is not that big for purchases on xCloud. And two players, very interesting. Xbox grew a lot, and the number of people paying for something at a price amount. So here you see 43% of people bought between $10 and $49 worth of items. So a total of 58% spent $50 or less if you combine these two. And then you have some crazy people. About almost 4,000 people are into the category of that 500 plus, and I believe it was beyond this, maybe almost 1,000. So very exciting to see that the average spending is here, and we'll see if that goes up or down in the future. But people do spend at least a little bit in the marketplace. Who is buying though? So North America and Europe are the main contributors, and they said that they would also focus eventually on the other segments, which seems interesting. Likely that they're not advertising as much in these markets, considering there's less world updates and less focus from developers in these regions. So that would be interesting to see how they decide to grow these segments, namely Australia, Africa, Asia, and South America. In terms of purchases, obviously aircrafts are the ones that are purchased the most. 24% of the catalog is just full there aircrafts. and that's on PC. Combined for all platforms is what you see on the right here. So the Windows Store is more open to non-aircraft purchases, and aircraft purchases are at 37%. Xbox is 45% of purchases on planes and 51% on xCloud. So really what's happening is everyone wants planes first, and xCloud has half of its purchases are just planes. So surprisingly, Xbox also is very high. So I think we're looking at people buying kind of the mid-range, lower range of airliners, and they want to be able to fly and enjoy the sim. I think that seems to be one of the bigger use cases of the casual audience. So very interesting to see that. Then if we look by platform, so this is the royalty, sorry, not the royalty, but essentially all the revenue as a result. I'm talking about royalty because royalties are better on the Microsoft Store version, so Windows 10. Because if you go on Steam, for example, you do have an additional cut from Steam. So interesting like this. Double-digit growth on the whole thing. Xbox has had a massive growth. You could see this is just massive, 36% now. It has overtaken Windows 10, but if you combine still Windows 10 and Steam, you're still at a massive percentage here. So 60% is still PC, 40% is Xbox or air quotes mobile with xCloud. So they did a research. They did user research on January 2021 and June 2024. So these are the two dates. So January for 2021 in dark blue and June 2024 for the light blue. And many people converted from, did you buy to did you not buy? So 2021, 35% paid for marketplace content. In 2024, that upgraded it to 79%. And obviously, they want to focus on the 19% of people that said still no, because it's part of the profitability of making the sim. It's part of the profitability and availability of future development and funds for Microsoft to grow and continue to build on the platform. So it's still fairly relevant. Most of the elements here, yes. I found interesting 6%, so that increased in the number of people that found it difficult to find the content in the marketplace. And really, the main focus here in difference, no content I want to buy, that changed obviously from 2021. Again, January 2021, so it was very, very new. Remember, the sim released in August of 2020. Big increase in people buying things outside of the sim. So that's still, I mean, not good for Microsoft, but still very excellent in people's ability for choice. So from a consumer standpoint, it is still good, but it means also that there's not enough quality in the marketplace, and as a result, people might want to go outside of the marketplace because they might have a better experience elsewhere. This one, it's very interesting. The chart looks a little scary, so very quickly over this. So this was a survey done in October of 2021. They got a test to see what people are interested for every price point. So I tell you, okay, this airplane, would you buy it at $5? Would you buy it at $10? Would you and so on for every interval. And you could see in the middle here the optimal range basically. So for an airliner on PC, would you buy? And then it goes up or down. And you can see the average right here is quite interesting. It's around the middle. Xbox is below, and very interesting. So this is a sensitivity analysis, and you could see essentially Xbox at the bottom here, and PC at the top. So PC wants to spend more than Xbox, apart from novices. And you can see here, essentially on the lower end, experienced people are looking about $19 for an add-on, upper end 27. Novices are just looking for something very cheap. And that makes sense. The more experienced you are, usually the higher quality you're looking for. And as a result, you tend to look more at the higher end developers, and that makes sense. So in terms of optimal pricing, you can see here, if you're an airliner developer, for example, this is how you would want to price your average plane depending on the quality, and essentially target an audience with that price point. So that's very valuable data for people, but it is old. This is from October 2021. So just keep that in mind. This is the aircraft, both by price brand and user score. So essentially, this is all the planes right there. And then at what price point are they hitting? And you can see most of them are in the 15 to 19, which is very interesting. And 73% of people want to spend essentially $25 or less on all of this. So the rest is very thin at the higher end. So the people that are up here in the 40, 50, 60 usually will be looking for very specific product and a specific quality. And so that's why there's such a gap with the rest. On the lower end is usually more a variety of what they're interested in and having the ability to just have fun with planes and discover them, which is amazing to have things on the lower end. But at the same time, people do know that when things are cheap, there might not necessarily be the top quality. And you can see a lot of people are very interested in the higher quality things. So on the right here, the higher rated content essentially is the driver for purchases. So a lot of people are looking to that 4.1, 4.5 and beyond. So very little people are purchasing add-ons that are below that, 3.6, 4.1 element. And it seems like when you combine this together, and this looks scary, but it's not, the sub 20%, the sub $20 range is more looking for 3.5 stars content and lower, and anything in the 40 range and above, they're not buying anything in the lower range, right? So you see a lot of blue and purple in the upper range here, and blue and purple is the number of stars. And then as you go left into cheaper prices, then people are more willing to buy into the lower stars. So it tells you a little bit more about how people are more interested maybe at the lower end. They know they're not paying for that much and they just want content to them. And so they might be interested in looking at add-ons that are rated a little less. But at least they have something and it's cheap. Or people will go into the more expensive add-ons, but then they really look for that quality and they're not going to spend at an add-on that's 3.1 at $35. And then this is very similar again, not that different, but for airports, and you can see a lot of things. The sweet spot is definitely $10 to $15. Looks again, like the presenter said, normal distribution. Very interesting for that because it seems like most, you're not going to sell really anything above $25 to $29 for an airport. And the vast majority of your market is here in the $10 to $14.99. Ratings, same thing. People want high quality. So like this is a clear indicator. People want good quality. Nobody cares about the rest. If you have 3.1 to 3.5 stars, people are not interested into it. Heat map for all the airports that people are purchasing. You can see vast focus is in Europe with some elements in the North American coast and mostly the coast of various continents. Europe, you can see the focus is mostly in the UK, Germany, Switzerland, and yeah, that's very interesting. Um, Nothing really to say about this. It's really neat, but they do obviously want to focus on other parts of the world, and that's where the world updates are going to matter, and where they're going to try to gain customers from these regions, mostly Asia, Africa, and South America. Couple of last interesting elements. Impact of royalties. So the way to do this is, when you buy to the marketplace, you might not be using the USD, you might be using another currency. And that currency has to be translated to USD. And sometimes, because of how this is, you essentially have this impact of royalties. So as you translate the currency, you do have a financial impact if a currency is worth more or less. And so Microsoft said, you know what, for this change in currency, instead of translating everything directly to USD and essentially pushing the price up for things that are non-USD with local inflation and economic impact on the different countries, they are observing themselves the currency impact, meaning they're the one taking in the hit, and that's a 6% point. So as a result, it's essentially a 6% free for the devs. So the devs are not paying that cost. It's Microsoft. So that's a little impact that they're giving us. And they're saying, yeah, it's pretty important. We want to make this pretty big. And so yeah, that concludes my little video. They had 4,000 items in the marketplace. They want to get a lot more. They're very happy with how things have been. Um, this was my little recap. I know it's a little longer than I wanted to, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe, like, and I hope to see you guys around for some of my community fly-ins that I do on Thursdays. Adventure through the skies. See you around. Bye.